In Ukraine, even Russia's most modern tanks have been hit by attacks from above. Precisely in the area where armor has historically received the least attention. That's precisely why tanks are becoming vulnerable. Low-cost drones, top-attack missiles, standby ammunition, armored vehicles costing millions being destroyed in a matter of seconds. Now, imagine being inside that tower. No sound, no warning, nothing visible. And then, it happens. But this is where the twist comes in. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Just a few weeks ago, in January 2026, at the Detroit Auto Show, an unlikely place for such a thing, the United States Army unveiled something completely new. It wasn't a tank for show, nor a simple upgrade, but a new generation of the Abrams tank, developed specifically for this type of battlefield. Lighter, prepared for a hybrid system, with the crew protected inside an armored capsule, designed from the outset to face drone-dominated warfare. This is the M1E3 Abrams. And it's not just the launch of a new tank, it's a message. Because what was presented in Detroit isn't about impressing under lights and cameras, it's about surviving what comes from above. And wait until you see what they've done to the turret. For decades, tanks have been designed for direct combat. Heavy frontal armor, large caliber guns, powerful engines. The M1A2 Abrams, weighing over 70 tons and equipped with a 1,500 horsepower AGT 1500 gas turbine, is fast, aggressive, and extremely fuel-intensive. But the war in Ukraine changed that logic. It is no longer tank duels that define the battlefield. The sky has become the main threat. Drones have transformed open areas into completely exposed zones where any movement can be detected and attacked. Drones dive from above. Standby munitions circle patiently. Anti-tank missiles strike the roof armor. Ukraine didn't just damage tanks, it exposed them. It exposed their heat, their noise, their logistics, their blind spots. It proved that the sky now plays a part in any combat. Suddenly, survival was no longer about who had the thickest steel. It was about who was detected first. The problem wasn't just armor, it was thermal signature. It was fuel logistics. It was noise. It was weight. A 70-ton platform that glows like an oven in infrared light is an easy target in a drone war. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even Western tanks would struggle in this environment without adaptation. So, instead of simply adding more armor and moving towards 80 tons, the Army changed course. Meet the 5th generation Abrams, the M1E3. And this is where it gets serious. First shock, it's lighter. Estimated weight, approximately between 54 and 66 tons, depending on the configuration. This could represent more than 10 tons less than the heavier versions of the M1A2. Why does this matter? Bridges, strategic transport, acceleration, repositioning under fire. Mobility is not comfort, mobility is survival. But here's where we adjust the facts. You may have heard that the M1E3 abandons the turbine. Not yet. The prototype from January 2026 still uses the AGT 1500 gas turbine, but the direction is clear. The Army is moving towards a hybrid electric future, and that changes everything. The goal is not just efficiency, it's silent surveillance, lower fuel consumption, reduced thermal emissions, a smaller acoustic signature, not invisible, but harder to detect. Instead of a roaring turbine announcing its position, imagine a 66-ton machine advancing with only the faint hum of electric assistance. Picture the scene. You are a drone operator sweeping through rows of trees. You are chasing heat. You are hearing the roar of engines. And this machine, it's quieter, cooler, less conspicuous. It doesn't eliminate the risk. It reduces the window of opportunity. And in the war of drones, seconds are everything. But the engine isn't the boldest change. The turret is. This is where people in Detroit were surprised. The tower isn't small. It's not sleek and futuristic. In fact, it's still big. Why? Because it houses an automatic loader, advanced sensors, and integrated active protection systems. But here's the critical change. The turret is unmanned. It's empty. The crew, 3 soldiers, sits side by side inside an armored capsule in the hull, not in the turret basket under the thicker armor at the front. Traditional tanks place humans inside the turret. If that turret suffers a catastrophic impact, the jack-in-the-box effect occurs. We've all seen these images before. The M1E3 solves this differently. If the turret is hit, the crew isn't sitting on top of the ammunition. It is protected in a reinforced compartment in the hull with anti-splash and blast mitigation coatings. This is not just aesthetics, it's a shift in survival philosophy. Controlling this unmanned tower feels like something out of a simulator. High-resolution screens, 360-degree cameras, thermal imaging, laser warning receivers, sensor fusion integrated into a single interface. Each crew member can access target data, maps, drone information, and weapons control. It's not just about the thickness of the armor. It's about information control. But if you think that's the biggest change, wait until we analyze how this tank disrupts Russia's entire chain of destruction, because that's when it stops being exciting and starts looking like a doctrinaire nightmare. If you're enjoying this video so far, leave a like and subscribe right now. Let's take the emotion out of this. Modern armored warfare is not random. It is procedural. Ukraine revealed the pattern, a pattern that can be studied, replicated, and optimized. And the war in Ukraine exposed a repeatable pattern that destroyed hundreds of vehicles. Step 1. Detection. A small reconnaissance drone takes off. Cheap, disposable, silent. He doesn't attack. He observes, identifies engine heat, movement, dust. The coordinates are sent. And that's it. The tank hasn't fired a single shot yet. Now, this is where the M1E3 changes the equation. The current prototype still uses a turbine. Yes, but the Army's move towards hybrid electric systems has a clear objective: to reduce the signature, less heat, less noise, and a smaller profile in silent surveillance mode. It doesn't make the tank invisible, but it shortens the time between detection and repositioning. And when survivability is measured in seconds, that matters. Step 2. Framing. Once the drone confirms the location, the artillery doesn't aim for perfection. The objective isn't instant destruction, it's immobilization. Forcing the tank to stop, forcing it to take cover, forcing it to wait. And when he waits, the sky fills. This is where mobility becomes armor. Weighing 54 to 66 tons, the M1E3 is lighter than the heavier versions of the Abrams. Better acceleration, better repositioning, less strain on infrastructure. It's harder to lock onto as a target. And when something manages to get through, that's when the integrated active protection system kicks in. Anti-tank missile incoming, detected, interception by direct destruction, guided munition incoming, interference by countermeasures. Instead of absorbing the impact, the system attempts to eliminate it in the air. Step 3. Swarm. FPV drones with explosive payloads. Operators controlling them as if they were racing simulators. They don't care about the frontal armor. They dive into the turret roof, the engine compartment, the rear angles. Now comes the twist. The tower is no longer where the crew is stationed. It's empty. Large, yes, because it houses automatic loaders and sensors. But without a crew, if hit, the 3 crew members remain inside a reinforced capsule in the hull at the front. Lower, more protected. And this also matters psychologically, because the survival of the crew changes operational confidence. Furthermore, the remote weapon station on the 2026 prototype is not science fiction. It's practical. A 40mm Mark 19 grenade launcher, an integrated javelin launcher in the station, flexible, modular. The 40mm grenades aren't just for infantry. They function as protection against swarms with aerial detonation, ready for adaptation. This is not a hypothetical upgrade. This is exactly what was presented. Step 4. Finalization. If the framing and FPV drones don't complete the attack, a waiting round remains circling. Observing that moment when the tank remains stationary for too long, and then dives. Ukraine proved how devastating an attack from above can be. That's why the M1E3 integrates reinforced roof protection, modular armor solutions, and an architecture centered on active protection systems, specifically designed for this threat environment. But this is where the logic changes. Abrams' tests included modules capable of launching weighting munitions, like Switchblade-type drones. So, instead of just defending itself, it projects power. You detect the anti-tank team before they fire. You send in a drone. You disrupt the chain before it's complete. The M1E3 isn't trying to dominate 1990s tank duels. It was designed to disrupt the process that defines 2020's warfare. And if you analyze this from a Russian doctrinal perspective, it's not a matter of panic. It's a strategic problem, because the system that has been effective depends on this chain functioning perfectly. And this project was built to introduce friction at every stage. Now let's talk about firepower, because none of that matters if it can't hit hard. The main gun, still 120mm smoothbore, is compatible with advanced multi-purpose ammunition from the United States, with the potential to evolve to larger calibers in the future if necessary. The automatic loader replaces the traditional human loader, 3 crew members instead of 4. Faster firing cycle, more compact crew layout, reduced personnel requirements. And let's be precise here. Although concepts have discussed 30mm anti-drone cannons, the 2026 prototype features a remote station equipped with a 40mm Mk19 grenade launcher and integration with Javelin missiles. This matters because it demonstrates flexibility. The architecture is modular. The weapons can evolve, and that's the theme of the entire M1E3 concept: adaptability over gross mass. The M1A2 SEPV3, weighing over 70 tons, with a crew of 4 and powered solely by a gas turbine, had active protection systems added later. The M1E3, on the other hand, has an estimated weight between 54 and 66 tons. 3 crew members in an armored capsule, targeting a hybrid system, integrated active protection architecture, focus on survivability in the age of drones. This isn't the death of tanks, it's their recalibration. Now here's why this matters strategically. Modern Russian doctrine combines artillery dominance with drone reconnaissance and distributed anti-armor teams. The M1E3 doesn't make armor invincible, but it increases the cost of destroying it. Lower fuel consumption reduces vulnerable logistics chains. The crew capsule increases survivability after penetration. Active protection systems interfere with guided weapons. Hybrid steering reduces signature exposure over time. The open architecture of modular systems allows for faster upgrades than traditional modernization cycles. If NATO armored forces begin to restructure around this concept, it's not just a headline, it's a shift in the assumptions of future planning. Because now the question isn't, are tanks obsolete? It's, can you afford to ignore this evolution? And the answer to that question will shape armored warfare in the next decade. Let's go back inside the tank, because steel is only half the story. The other half is information. The 3 crew members of the M1E3 sit side by side inside a protected capsule within the hull, not stacked vertically, nor separated between hull and turret, together under the thicker frontal armor. This layout instantly changes coordination. Everyone sees the same panorama of the battlefield. Multifunctional screens display thermal images, 360-degree camera views, laser alerts, navigation overlays, and target data. It's no longer a soldier looking through a scope, it's a shared and integrated view of the combat. And this is where the open modular architecture makes a difference. Because this tank isn't frozen in 2026. New sensors, integrate them. New electronic warfare capabilities against drones, connect them. Software updates to improve threat detection, distribute them across the network. Instead of waiting a decade for a massive modernization cycle, updates can happen incrementally. And in a war defined by rapid adaptation, this flexibility can matter more than the thickness of the armor. Now broaden your perspective, because the real battlefield isn't just the tank, it's the logistics. One of the less glamorous lessons from Ukraine: convoys get destroyed. Fuel trucks, refueling vehicles, maintenance convoys, these are vulnerable targets. The traditional Abrams turbine is powerful, but it consumes a lot of fuel. The M1E3 prototype still uses that turbine, yes, but the program's trajectory towards hybrid electric integration has the direct objective of reducing fuel demand over time. Less fuel consumed means fewer trains, less exposure, a lower operational footprint. Logistics isn't cinematic, but it influences campaigns. If armored formations require fewer vulnerable support resources, their operational range expands. They can maneuver for longer, reposition faster, and survive deeper. This may not be flashy, but it is crucial. Critics say drones have done away with tanks, cheap quadcopters against multi-million-dollar machines. So why insist? Because armor still delivers something drones can't: sustained, protected, and mobile firepower. Drones observe, disrupt, attack, but armored vehicles hold their ground. They break through defenses. They absorb impacts that would destroy lighter systems. The M1E3 doesn't pretend drones don't exist. It assumes they do. Active protection, crew isolation, reduced signature, modular architecture. He's not trying to revive the Cold War. He's trying to survive the 2030s, and that's the difference. Prototype revealed in January 2026. Soldier involvement expected later this decade. Entry into service projected for the 2030s. It seems distant, but doctrine evolves before the equipment fully arrives. Training changes, force structures change, acquisitions change. If NATO's armored doctrine begins to orient itself around this concept, other military forces will not wait until 2035 to react, because the battlefield is not static, it's iterative. And this prototype signals direction, no exaggeration, direction. Imagine Eastern Europe in 2035 at night. Reconnaissance drones are scanning fields. They're looking for heat. They're finding less. An armored unit moves, quieter than expected. An approaching missile is detected and intercepted in mid-air. A standby round is launched from the tank's own platform. Anti-armor team disappears before firing. The crew remains sealed inside a reinforced capsule in the hull, alive and operational. The turret is hit, not soldiers. That's the concept. Not invincibility, but resilience. The M1E3 Abrams wasn't designed to dominate the past. It was designed to disrupt the present, and whether you call it Russian panic or a doctrinaire nightmare, it's undeniably a change. So now the question is yours. Is this the blueprint for the next generation of armored warfare, or just an ambitious prototype? Leave a like if advanced military technology interests you, and leave your opinion in the comments. M1E3 versus T-14. Which design philosophy wins? Because the next era of armored warfare won't be about the heaviest tank. It will be about the one that can survive the sky,